to pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And let us pray. Lord God, I know that in your word it says you crown the year with your goodness. And so as we come to the beginning of this year, I pray that you will continue to inspire and to encourage and to give wisdom and insight to our village leaders. I pray for their health. I pray for the health of our community. I pray for that their work would be inspired, that they would have a common vision of the overall well-being of this community. We know there are many needs, Lord God, and help our leaders not to become overwhelmed. Help them to give them the wisdom to take each step and to be watching out for the fruit of their labors. So give them encouragement, Lord God, especially at this time of year when it just seems cold and the days seem so short. We need to remember that the sun is shining still behind all of those clouds and all of that darkness. Again, give our leaders inspiration and give them even joy and laughter. Again, bring them together with a common vision of the good of this village. We pray this to the God whom we understand is the God over our nation and over our lives and over our village now and forevermore. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Sorry. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. I hope everybody had a Merry Christmas and very Happy New Year. And I hope we have a more prosperous and better year this year. Number one on our thing is the abstracts. If there's you've all got copies of them. I hope you had time to question if you didn't. You can ask the questions now. If you're all prepared, I'll take a motion to pass the abstracts.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So will be carried. Thank you. Department heads, Steve Dutcher.
Good evening, everybody.
Good.
You all have my report. That was a combination December and year-end report, with all the bills in there. I also completed the annual report to the state. I have a copy of that down here if anybody wants to see it. It's essentially the same information, just in a different format is all. Any questions on the report? I've got one other item to bring up. I made you aware of Sal Salvia's request for conditional use to essentially double the size of his garage at 64 Slap Avenue. The initial plan was planning board meeting was supposed to be last Thursday night, but because of the weather that got canceled. I figured I would march forward and throw it at the board that if you wish to render a decision a disapproval or an approval with conditions, based on the planning board's decision come Thursday night, that would expedite the process. And we won't hold him up because of the weather. That's up to you. Ultimately, the final decision would then rest with the planning board as opposed to the village board. So
he's just going to use this for extra storage. There's no commercial.
There's no commercial use to it. It's extra storage and a place for him to tinker, other in his garage.
You've looked at the plans and you have no issue with it?
I've looked at the plans. It's a pretty straightforward thing. The conditional use permit basically says that any private garage between 900 and 2,000 square feet requires a conditional use process or permit. You guys have seen the plans. The garage would be slightly smaller, or the addition would be slightly smaller than the addition that's there, or the garage that's there. And it wouldn't extend out past where the face of his house is now on Stockton Avenue. It's a decent location, there's a gigantic pine tree that's gonna stay there, that would actually still be there. Same height as the garage, same roof covering, same siding, and basically.
Is this an additional room, or is he enlarging the existing space?
It's an addition to the existing space, but it would all be garage space. He would still have a garage door for access for larger stuff in that portion of the garage.
Is this wall gonna stay there, or will this be open? to
It'll
one
just
large
be
space?
an oversized man door.
Okay, so the
to
wall
connect.
really will,
The wall will be there, but they'll be connected with a larger, slightly larger than normal man door.
Well, for me, I have no problem as long as the planning board goes along with it, you know, I mean, we need a motion if anybody, so.
What's the wording of the motion? I mean, I don't have a problem with it at all, as long as we do the motion correctly, so.
I think the motion would be to approve the conditional use pending planning board approval and
Oh,
recommendations.
just that simple, okay.
Yeah.
I'm happy to make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I have nothing else.
Okay, thank you, sir. Bill?
Thank you.
Evening, everybody.
Good evening.
New Year.
Thank you.
Everybody got a copy of our handout for tonight.
Yes, thank you.
Just had a couple of quick things to touch base on. The aeration piping repairs, which is a small project that we contracted out a couple months ago, was completed over the last month. We had about 9,000 gallons of septage delivered, which is a small revenue stream for the village. We did purchase some replacement parts for the sand filters, which is a purchase that we make every year. There's about, I think there's 40 total airlifts as a component. They have a lifespan of 3 to 5 years. We replace a few of them each year. So we made that purchase.
Bill, what does an airlift do? I was reading this,
It's a plastic tube that goes down in the center of the sand filter, and use it to pump air throughout the sand filter to keep the solids from building up in the sand. So it's just a part of the process
Right,
for the equipment. So
Thanks.
they're just a plastic part, and they get worn over the years by the sand, the
Sure.
media that's in the filter. So we bought some of them, which is it's a budgeted expense. We know we're going to do it every year. So. One item we are asking to purchase is a replacement motor for the belt filter press. The existing motor, it's not working right, the fan is shot on it, it's not cooling right, so we're asking to replace the motor on the filter press.
You need a motion for
Yes,
that?
we're asking to make that expenditure. The total price is $1,265.25 plus shipping for that component.
Make a motion, we approve that expense.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
The only other item we're asking for tonight is to award the bid for sludge hauling. Last month, the board authorized going out to bid for sludge hauling contract. We received one bid back. Last month, it was the same vendor, Delton Sanitation, that currently has a contract at the same rate that the current contract is, and is a budgeted expenditure. So we're asking that the board award the sludge hauling contract to Delton Sanitation at the rate of $11.75 per ton to haul sludge from wastewater plant to the landfill.
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
The only other items to highlight are the water project is completely closed out now. We had the loan closing the 20th. The money came through. It was then quickly forwarded on to EFC. So now we have biannual loan payments to make the USDA for the project. Terrace Avenue is completed, and we just have to come back in the spring and do some site restorations, more grass seed and topsoil. We've also been working with Roger and the DPW to develop an inventory of the water system, the existing piping, the stuff that's been replaced, the stuff that hasn't been replaced over the years, to develop a map, and then a list of all the streets, with the condition of their water mains, to, you know, have essentially like a 5 and 10 year plan, for what needs to be addressed in the coming years. Identify what we have replaced
And
recently.
when you do this thing, you're gonna say how old they are, the existing ones are, right? So-
Yeah. Yeah, some of them, we've replaced a lot of pipe in the village, you know, with the recent projects. There's still a lot of pipe in the village that's, you know, aged 70, 80 years old and is at the end of its life expectancy. You know, they're having breaks, throughout the system, so it's a continuing effort to maintain, you know, the size system that you have. We're working with Roger to come up with that plan and the mapping and whatnot, to have that inventory in place to use as a planning tool.
Good. That'd be great to have.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think we have a good system going right now, the last 3 or 4 years, where we're starting to make the repairs.
Right.
The problem I see is that people don't realize, because they don't see it
Right, it's 5
under
feet
the ground.
Right.
And if you don't see it, it's out of mind, and they don't realize, they're just used to putting on the faucet and the water's coming out. But
Right.
people like Terrace Avenue, they realize how bad the water is, but there's a lot of places in the village that still need to be taken care of.
Very true.
I had somebody look at that picture because I had it on my computer. Oh my God, what is that?
Yeah.
That's your water pipe.
The other problem.
And that's the inside, that's
Yeah.
not the outside.
When there's a break, it only ever happens in the middle of the night. You never have those breaks at 10 AM on Monday when everybody can see the guys working there.
Roger can verify that, every time they can go home at 3:30, it's like, uh-oh, here goes the pipe.
Do you have a feel for, as we're getting close to working on next year's budget, when you might have the survey?
We're hoping this month to have, you know, be able to go back in the February meeting with, you know, a map and a list of,
That'd be terrific there.
maybe some recommendations and, you know, that inventory, so to speak, of where we see this going.
Yep, we understand that winter time and snow, ice,
Right.
that you guys get pulled away, but that'd be helpful.
Yep.
Okay,
That's all we had.
thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Chief?
Hi.
Evening.
I really don't have a lot this evening other than my monthly report. I think I passed it out. If there are any questions, concerns about it, I'll try to explain.
Was New Year's Eve quiet?
For the most part, yes, but it was New Year's Eve, I guess. There was
Still New Year's Eve.
business.
Chief, it's been months since the fair, but I want to pass on to you and your team, please, that had a resident stop me yesterday and say how how impressed they were with the police department taking care of traffic during Fair Week. I mean, that's a nightmare with all the traffic coming into town, but your officers did a superb job,
Okay.
and, you know, months after the fair, they're still recognizing it. So.
Thank you, I'll pass that on to all the guys, because that's time consuming and can be very tiresome. Staying out there for all those hours and calling down cars. and everything else.
Say it, not the safest place to stand in the village.
No, especially at night time.
Yeah.
Get out there, we try to light ourselves up as much as possible, be seen, but we need to pay attention. Do you have any concerns or questions about the monthly report?
19 properties, what's a property check? I mean, I'm not being facetious, but we don't walk door to door and check, oh, we do, really? Okay.
My lake chef guy, he checks when the weather's good or not, below zero, out, he checks doors, but we also have private citizens that may go away for a month, all winter.
Okay.
Something they'll come to us and ask us just to keep an eye on their house for.
Okay. So it's literally what it says?
Yeah.
Okay.
Chief, I did have another resident stop and say there seems to be a lot of cars running the traffic light on Liberty and Mead Street. Just
Okay,
something we can see.
okay. There you go, take note of that.
Yeah, sometimes if you set up there, yeah.
Griswold and me, we do it too.
Yeah.
Townsend and me, wanna go, we can go show you all. I've seen a few of them myself, and,
Stockman.
Yeah.
I think that covers all the lights we
Yeah.
have.
Okay, that's all I have.
Very
All right,
good.
thank you.
Thanks, Diane.
Raj? Mr. Hoyt?
You have an option?
I don't have anything, so I guess we're good. Anybody has a report, I hope.
Yes.
If there's any concerns on it.
We were having trouble with people dumping rubbish down below the wastewater treatment plants. Does that kind of slow down in the winter when
Yeah,
it
it's
snows?
because, you know, obviously the
They don't take their snowmobiles down there and dump stuff?
Not in that route. We've been hauling out of there, we pretty much stopped since.
Sure.
As soon as we get time, we'll be right back at it. Hopefully get it cleaned up.
What do you do with that? I mean, since the state doesn't let us burn anymore,
The Christmas trees, are you talking about, or just the rubbish?
the rubbish that's back.
Well, we made a deal with a person out of town that has a pretty good sizable hole that he was willing to take it.
Ah,
And
clean
fill,
film.
and
Wow.
it's actually very fill, not too many people want it, which is a
Yeah.
oddity, so we got fortunate.
Fantastic. I'll go to all of it.
We're good for a while.
I was gonna say that.
We're good for a while.
It'll take most of it,
Yeah.
Oh, great.
and the Christmas trees, we're stacking them up down there, so we can just start throwing them in the chipper, you know, use them for chips.
Good. Thank you.
Anything you want on the street sweeper? You sure you want to and stuff? Or is that budget time discussion?
Actually, I'm gonna present that in the budget,
Okay.
you know, and hopefully, see what it is. But I'm sure it's gonna go.
You were surprised, Roger.
Prioritize it.
Surprised. Okay.
Slip that in.
We're smiling now.
That'll be the budget area.
Good.
There's nothing else. The only thing I wanted to point out, the electric service at the water tank. We did that in-house, it worked out very well. It's a great upgrade to the water system also.
Thank you.
Good job, Mom.
You know, the guys have been doing a lot of, tell the guys thank you, they've been coming in, putting a lot of extra hours with that plowing and everything, so we appreciate it, I know. Especially those breaks, they always seem to happen at 4 o'clock at night, everybody's gone home.
Absolutely, yeah. Wouldn't have it any other way.
And a couple times already, I've been either out walking the dogs late at night or whatever, and I just think, well, they wouldn't be out now, it's too late or way too early, and sure enough, within a couple minutes, here comes one of the guys through with the plow cleaning
Yeah.
the street, so.
The problem we had at the beginning of this season, it just seemed to be the small storms. You know,
Sure.
we've been going through a lot of salt this year, just wanting to get, you know,
We got a lot of them left too.
yeah, that's what makes me nervous.
Yeah.
Just beginning. So, and Jody keeps telling me don't order anymore, but.
She's just the gatekeeper, you know, she's trying to do the right thing, you know?
I'm all set for everybody.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks, Roger.
Thank you.
Okay, public input. Does anyone here wish to say anything? Please stand, just say your name and address, and we'll give you some time to talk. Not a whole bunch. If not, then we'll go on to the reports, the mayor's reports. The other thing I'm gonna say, there's two things I wanna talk about. One thing is the potholes. There's been a lot of discussion on Facebook and other places where people are saying that the village is not taking care of Delaware Street and there's all these holes. Just for the record, Delaware Street is not the responsibility of the village. It's the state DOT, they should be filling the holes. And this is a very bad time of year for filling the holes, and people should know that. There's a lot of water, there's a lot of snow, a lot of moisture, and they can go in, DOT has been around this past weekend, I know they filled a few holes, but they're already broken out. Because there's nothing, it's all wet, there's nothing to adhere to. So people need to have a little bit of patience. When it gets drier and warmer, then we can take care of it. They said that they would keep coming around. I'll call them and speak to them again, but they're just they're throwing bad money away when they go in their homes, because they're just not gonna stay. If it stays a day, they're lucky. So I just want people to be aware that we're aware of it. There's just not much you can do right now. The second thing I want to bring up, and it's a very important thing I want to bring up, it's been brought to my attention that there's been people, and I won't mention any names, going down to our salt shed and taking salt. They've been backing up their trucks, they've been backing up their cars, and I'm going to make an official statement that it's gonna stop. No matter who it is, if you get caught going in the salt shed and taking salt, the police will be notified and you'll be arrested. Enough is enough. And I've spoke to every board, most of the board members, I didn't tell Teresa yet, but I'm not gonna mention names, I'm not gonna go out and do anything like that, but you know who you are. And there's some that have been repeat offenders a lot, and it's gonna stop. We're gonna put a camera up, we're gonna get you on tape, and we're gonna lock you out. So it's not fair that the rest of the people in this village is gonna go out and buy salt, and you come down and just take it for your own thing, and it's just not right. So, just, you're warned now, you're forewarned now, if anything happens, you get caught, you will be arrested for it. And I think it's just a fair thing to do.
Well, and listening to Roger, it's not like we're gonna have a surplus of salt at the end of
No.
the year anyway, so it's just,
It's expensive, we pay a lot of money for it, and, you know, if you're gonna do that, then every villager should be able to go down and fill up all the pails and not go to Ace Hardware and buy it, you know, what's right is right. Some people back up and they think they're gonna fill all the buckets up with salt, and then they go out and get paid to salt other people's property. So, it's gotta stop. And if anyone else on the board has anything you wanna say about that, I mean,
Right, they need to be aware that it is criminal activity.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just something that's not gonna hurt anybody. It definitely hurts everybody who pays taxes in the village, so.
And folks, if folks see people in there doing it and it's off hours, let the police department know, because it's our village and we need to take care of it. It's gotta end, you're right.
Yeah.
right. And if you don't wanna, some people feel funny telling the police, you wanna see me? You tell me, I'm on Facebook, leave me a message, private message, and I'll take care of it. That's all. We just need to stop it, that's all. Okay, that's all I have to say. We'll go on the trustee reports. We'll start with Teresa today.
Good news for a change. We received a letter from Barbara Fiala, Commissioner of Motor Vehicles, and it's actually addressed to the chief, and it says, "On behalf of Governor Andrew M. Cuomo, I am pleased to notify you that the Village of Walton Police Department has been awarded $3,600 to participate in the statewide police traffic services program. Our goal is to increase seatbelt usage and reduce aggressive, speeding, distracted, and other dangerous driving behaviors in an effort to reduce serious injury and death from traffic crashes." So this is a grant that the state is giving to our village to, you know, have drivers, our police out there looking for this kind of driving behavior. So congratulations to our PD for receiving the award, and fair notice to our people who come through our village that they're going to be watching.
And this also helps offset the cost of some of the guys out there doing it. This is something that I've applied for, my predecessors applied for every year for probably about 5 years now. I've been very, good at getting grants to do this, and it's really helped offset some costs for us.
Absolutely.
I'm not trying to be wide. I mean, you do this on a daily basis, right? Where
I
the
do.
grant comes in, that's gonna be additional then, or that is gonna help us with, as far as the wages?
Yes.
It goes into part of the budget. They consider it in their budget when they do the budget each year.
No, I'm,
So it's good for all of us because it's that much less
Right.
tax dollar for the village. So congratulations, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Have anything?
no, we pretty well covered most of mine. And one thing was is the service at the well. They did a fine job there, and of course, as always, the DPW, I slap them on the back because they take care of business.
You know, in regards to that too, I think a lot of people don't realize that one time DPW had 14 people, right, Raj? Now we're down to 7. So, I mean, they're still maintaining the roads like they always have and everything else with half the crew. half the amount of people they had working as a crew, so.
So you're doing better work with fewer people.
Careful, you answer that. We gotta cut down a couple more, you mean? That meeting's good.
I'm sorry.
No, the guys have really stepped up to the plate, they've done a good job.
I guess.
Dave, you got anything?
No, I mean, Bill pretty well covered it, but just this distracted driving thing, I've talked to Brian a couple, it's amazing to me, this is my little grandstand here, is we're just, again, walking the dogs, they get me outside more than I'd like sometimes. It is unbelievable to me, the percentage of people you see driving up and down, well, Delaware Street and North Street are the two I hit most with the dogs, sometimes across street, on their phones. People in pickup trucks, people in sedans, it's scary, the percentage of people, you know, maybe they're looking around for police cars or something, but it seems to be profoundly cavalier about having a phone plastered to the side of their head, driving around the village.
You know, they
Past
don't
the school,
understand how
past the
distracting,
school of all places.
you know, how distracting that is, the danger
They
of it.
pull up to an intersection and it's scary, and I'm thinking, if I'm walking the dogs and I'm seeing this much stuff, imagine whether it's at night, it's unbelievable. And they've increased the penalties, but it just, you know.
Be happy you're walking the dog, not driving your car.
Well, yeah, I guess.
My gosh, I understand what you're saying.
Anyway, that's everything, that's enough, right?
Charlie, anything for you?
Yes, sir. I've got two things. One, the Theater Restoration Committee had applied for a historic preservation grant, and regretfully, they were turned down for that. But, and there were no reasons given for the turn down. But they also working with economic development to try to find sources of funding for a handicap entrance for the theater. And the other thing I have is I'd like board concurrence or approval to, Steve and I have been working on a proposal for registering landlords in the village. And basically the problem is we have a lot of absentee landlords within the village. And if there's problems that arise with the property, sometimes it's real difficult to find, to contact those individuals. Solution that we have, and much of it is taken from what Delhi has done, is basically identifying a property manager or a go-to person within the village or town of Walton to resolve those issues. And they would actually have to register, the owner of the property would need to register with the village clerk who that person is, contact information. So emergency comes up, it's maybe a broken water pipe, it may be a gas line problem, maybe something with the tenant. There's somebody within the village that the appropriate agency, whether it's law enforcement, water department, code enforcement, fire department, that they can go to. What I'd like to, with the board's concurrence and mayor's approval, forward this to the lawyer for his perusal.
Yeah, I think we have to do a hearing on it, right? We have to add, we have a public hearing, if we're gonna add it into that. I mean, after the lawyer, yeah. We'll give it to Dave Burke, let him take a look at it, and then we'll public hearing on it afterwards.
I've just talked around this a little bit, talked this around a little bit, and it's amazing to me the number of people that are really bothered by the fact that we've got as many absentee landlords as we do, and the negative impact it's having on the quality of the housing and Steve's inability to get to them and have something effective be done. It's people that aren't, I'm not talking about landlords, but even people that aren't living in some of those settings. It just seems to be more of a broad base to the concern than I would have expected, which is so that's good that it's coming up. But I was really surprised at the reaction I got from, you know, a broader base than I would have expected. Maybe overdue.
And this also helps address, I mean, code requires me to inspect on a 3-year basis multifamily residences, which would be an apartment house that has 3 or more dwelling units in it. And the ones that slip through the cracks are the single-family rental property or the 2-family rental property. Those are the ones that really slip through the cracks, and those are the ones that become the most difficult to address, because if you have an issue there and the landlord's in New Jersey, you know, if they don't have somebody already identified, you can forget about trying to address it. It's just, it's an absolute nightmare. to
Well,
try to
that's
get
what you
somebody.
said earlier, maybe not even in the United States.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, that last one that I had an issue with, well, it was kind of in the West, he was, sitting in Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, Walton, New York, and we're going international, you know, the landlord.
yeah, it gets crazy sometimes.
To kind of give a feel for the scope, I think, Steve, you mentioned that there's 79 multifamily residences within the village.
79? No wonder it's such an issue. Oh, my God.
That's a good idea. I think we
Okay,
give it a way.
We'll work on
Yeah,
something.
and it's nicely put together, Charlie. Thank you to you and Steve for the work that you've done on this.
Good, thank you.
That's ours.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll go to item number 6, the Justice Court audit.
Okay, every year we have to annually go over the court records upstairs, their accounting records. So we had Chris bring books down and Ms. Dee looked through them, and they all look in order, so she's written up a little note to the board, and we just need a motion to approve her audit.
You mean to, like, accept her recommendation? Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Second? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item number 7, the fire department siren.
I had a question about that. My understanding is, if I read this letter correctly, they want to just turn it over to the village. It doesn't work. The fire department has no use for it or need for it, and so they just want to turn it over to the village. And it would be nice if we could get it repaired, but we don't really know the cost of repair. So the second thing that I heard was dismantling it and selling it for scrap. So I'm gonna ask Roger, have you seen it? Do you know how much is entailed in dismantling it? And is it worth our time? Would the scrap pay for it, or would we make a profit? Or should we just tell the fire department, thanks, but no thanks for the gift? You can take it and dismantle it yourself.
That's another question.
As far as us taking it over, we don't really need to spend more money on another maintenance nightmare.
Right.
That's my opinion,
Mhm.
my opinion only. You're not gonna get a whole lot of money out of dismantling it for scrap, you just do it just to clean the areas up, that's the only reason that you do it.
Okay. So then, I guess my feeling about the whole thing is, we say to the fire department, no thank you, we really don't want to accept your gift, and give them a certain amount of time for them to clean it out for us. If they're finished with it, then let them dismantle and get rid of it. And they can sell it for scrap if there's any value to it.
How long would it take to, do you have any idea? Is something that would take a day to take it apart? Or
Yeah, there's not a whole lot to it. It comes down to an air compressor with a tank. There's a huge tank outside, on the side over there. And there's another one upstairs, and then you got your whistle, which is,
Well, we don't have to touch all that. I'm talking about in that room.
in that room, maybe an hour.
So it's,
Although I can't speak for the fire department, my sense is that, in talking to some of the commissions, that they're, would just continue the status quo. They're happy to have it there and just let it sit there. But if you just take an hour to clear that room out, I think it'd be worth just saying, thank you, let's get rid of it, and we have it for storage space.
But what is there, see, I guess I'm not, I don't know who to agree with, because I'm not aware of what it is, that, what all is involved in the system. You're talking about a tank and a room, what are we talking about, the hardware complete, start to finish, what, just replacing, not only replacing, removing it, whatever, what kind of volume are we looking at?
I don't know the exact size of the tank that the compressor is. See, the compressor is actually in a paper storage room where they keep folders and files. It's in the same room. And we'd have to unbolt the compressor and lift it off its base, put it on something and get it out through the foyer. Basically what that would boil down to get it out of the way.
Is there stuff out like this compressor tank? Is there any reason that we should leave it there, or is it safer to have it removed, or is it an eyesore?
If you're gonna discontinue the use of it, then you might better get rid of it, so
Clean
that they
it
can have
all
more
up.
storage space for records.
See, and I don't know whether we're talking enough, and I don't, this isn't a suggestion, it's a question, whether it's a kind of thing where if if the fire department wants us to clean it out for them, do we bill it, or is it the kind of thing where, let's just be done with it and get it out of our way? I'm not really sure where to fall on it.
Well, the way I understand, the fire department has more or less turned it over to us, right?
If that's what they want to
But
do.
the question is, do we have to accept it, which is a good point. Do we have to take a gift?
How do we get them to remove it?
Well, we're sort of, that's what gets us talking in circles almost.
Right, that's what I'm,
Yeah.
well, that's what I'm trying to
If I can
get
interject one
in.
more time, we constantly say lost scrap metals.
Right.
The DPW does, just because eventually we get it old enough to where it makes us money. If you want, we can take it out, put it in our scrap pile, and it'll just add to the load, because we never haul it over unless we got a full load, so.
Even with how few guys you got on the crew now.
But we'll see, hopefully the weather hold up.
I would think that it would be a good token on our side, even though we don't have to. If Roger says it's gonna take an hour, just to say that is it really worth going back and forth with letters for something that's gonna take an hour? If they really don't wanna do it, then fine, we'll just take it out. I didn't realize that's all it would take is
It's not much to it, it's bolted down by 4 legs, it has 4 bolts that hold it down. The electric started shut off, just on the floor, we'll get tin foil getter on, hook that, so nobody gets electrocuted.
And the tank outside is just a matter of carting it away.
The tank outside, I would assume it's attached to the building itself, I'm quite sure there's a strap at the top, but they're kind of easy on memory at this time, but
And now what about the horn? Can that just stay there? I mean,
it can, yeah. I
been
would-
there for how long?
I know, but is it something that's going to disintegrate over time? Are pieces gonna start falling off? I don't know.
And no, I can't see that happening, but without going up and just sitting there with that in mind, it's been there forever, it's just leave it there, type thing. And this size of the area that you had to take it out with, I don't think you're gonna have to put a plate on your hand,
Okay.
because there's nothing more than just a single cross space that you climb straight up a ladder to get
Yeah.
upstairs and
Okay.
so I honestly think you're better off
Just
just
let
calling
them
those
leave it
in.
alone.
And it's not in the way for future repairs to that area or anything like that.
No, it's an extreme high rafter area where I don't even know how we get up there to do anything with it.
In my opinion,
Your
additional
call. Go ahead.
expensive, we have to re-roof the building someday, and that might be the time to take it down.
Yeah, if we had, if we're on the roof and have it ripped up, we can reach down and take it out, which that's gonna come up in the budget.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Given that, I guess my leaning would be, I think Teresa's approach at first, because why, do we have to even accept it? But then if it makes a little more sense, but if it's not a big issue to just remove it,
Right.
gain the space back, and just not have it get into this, mismatch back and forth, I guess.
No.
It's easier for us to get rid of it than it would be the fire department, for sure, because we have the equipment to do it, but not the manpower.
Doesn't have to be the good guy, you can still go do it.
Jody, do we need a motion for that, or we just can do it?
No.
Okay. Thanks, Roger.
So that's why whenever you get a chance, when, in between your other stuff that you're doing, it's not an emergency, but,
Feet on the desk, I think
when you get your feet, get tired from one of these desks, and you can, thank you, Raj.
So we don't need a motion or anything?
No.
do we?
No. Okay, number 8, Village of Walton elections, set polling place.
That time of year again where we need to have a motion to set the polling place and the time of the election. The election date is March 18th. We've been having it here for the last few years, and that seems to work out fine. And I recommend having it from noon to 9 like we always do.
I would make that motion. Jody, excuse me.
Second.
Any, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Do we know what kind of machines we'll be using?
I think there's enough paper that we can still use the old lever machine.
Nice. Very good. Thank you.
I like that idea. Okay, number 9, the Walton Fire Department resolution. We just need to set up a date for a hearing, correct?
Correct.
Has Dave
Dave-
Merzick looked at this?
I sent it over, I haven't heard back from him.
Okay. Yeah,
We
we'd
got
like-
time. We just gotta make the resolution date now, that's all.
Okay,
We'll do
You
it
know,
next-
you just need to set the public hearing.
public
Okay.
hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Can we do that before the next meeting? Is that?
We'll do it, yeah, before the next meeting, yes, we do it.
At the next, yeah.
At the next meeting,
6
right
o'clock
before,
at the
yeah.
next meeting. They're not, the attorney, the fire department's attorney said that that would be fine. So they're not like in a big rush to get this done before that.
Teresa made the motion.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Believe it or not, that's all I have. Is there anything else that anyone would like to bring up, or any other thoughts or ideas? We'll talk about it. If not, then I'll have a motion to end the meeting.
I move we adjourn.
Yee. Second?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you very much, everybody, for coming. Have a good night. Be careful, it's getting cold out there, so I'm watching you driving. Especially you.